Hey guys, so this is going to be the second part to my first video about who is at fault here, because we need to take accountability, right? Who is the person responsible for this? Because if this was handled correctly in 2018, this would have never happened. Okay, so I'm going to go over that, and I'm going to be reading the transcripts from that case, so stay tuned. Also guys, I want to give credit to SF Investigates because he's the one that obtained all this transcripts, and this is all from his X account. So if you want to follow him, SF Investigates, he's great at finding things out. Okay, so I feel like we all pretty much know what happened in 2018, and if you don't, I'm just gonna do a quick rundown. So Jake and Vanessa is Jake's second wife, and they both got in trouble in 2018 for their baby, their 10-week-old baby, Promise. Her new name is Promise. Her then name was Carolina. So Promise ended up being in the hospital, and she had some injuries shown, and this is because Jake supposedly dropped her in the sink and he threw Vanessa under the bus. So we are going to be reading the transcript for that case. Okay, so it says right here, defendant Jake Haro Mitchell, and the paper says attachment declaration in support of arrest warrant. And I just want to warn you guys, this is pretty horrific. So if you guys don't want to see this video, I'm just gonna give a warning. This includes a baby, 10-week-old baby that was severely abused. Okay, so I'm just warning you guys. I read it once and I was pretty horrified. So it says, Jake said that on October 12th, 2018, after Vanessa dropped him off at home, he took V1, and I'm guessing this means victim 1, V1's temperature, and saw that it was 99 to 100 degrees. Jake gave victim 1 Tylenol and decided to bathe her in the kitchen sink. While holding victim 1 to let the water rinse off of her, she slipped out of his hands and fell into the sink. Jake said the left side of victim 1's chest hit the center divider of the dual basin sink. Jake immediately picked victim 1 up and did not notice any signs of injury. Jake said Vanessa returned home about 40 minutes after she dropped him off. Jake told Vanessa that he dropped victim 1 on the sink. Jake said he went to bed around 2100 to 2200 hours. So that would be 9-10 p.m. Okay. Let's see, 2100 hours. Jake was awakened by Vanessa in the early morning hours and told Jake something is wrong with the baby. Vanessa told Jake to feel victim 1's back. Jake said he immediately felt something crackle and not right with victim 1's back. Jake said victim 1 was crying, but it was not her normal cry. It was different, but he could not explain how. I informed Jake he had previously mentioned that he felt cracking, quote unquote, cracking on victim 1's back. Jake said it was very noticeable. I asked Jake if he felt that crackling when he bathed, put lotion, or changed victim 1 after she fell, and he said he did not. Jake and Vanessa are the only adults in the home and are the only caretakers of victim 1. Vanessa told me she would not talk to me without her attorney present and refused to answer any questions. That's pretty horrifying, guys. Okay, it says, I arrived at Hammett Valley Hospital and contacted Dr. Elliott. Dr. Elliott stated victim 1 appeared to have multiple healing rib fractures as well as acute fractures. I was also informed victim 1 had been transported to Loma Linda University Medical Center. I responded to Loma Linda Hospital and was informed victim 1 had been intubated and was in critical condition. After several hours and undergoing multiple tests, forensic pediatrician Dr. Daly provided me with an update on victim 1. The following is a synopsis of injuries found on victim 1. And I apologize if I mispronounce some of these, okay? Yeah. Acute fracture of the posterior left fifth rib. Healing fractures of the posterior lateral left 6th and 7th ribs, as well as the posterior left 10th through 12th ribs. Healing fractures of the right posterolateral 6th rib, as well as posterior 9th through 12th ribs. Parietal bone fracture, meaning skull fracture, brain hemorrhage, significant prevertebral soft tissue swelling of the neck, healing tibia fracture on right leg. Man, this is so heartbreaking, you guys. Dr. Daly informed me victim 1 had suffered at least 2 seizures and stated victim 1's condition could have been fatal if medical attention was not sought. These injuries would have been very painful, caused the child to have difficulty breathing, irritable, and cry. This guy is a monster, you guys. I mean, on December 1st, 2018, Loma Linda University Children's Hospital forensic pediatrician Dr. Daly completed the suspected child abuse and neglect examination on victim 1. In her report, she stated the following opinion, quote, victim 1 had findings of intracranial hemorrhage, brain injury, cervical spine injury, and retinal hemorrhages, accompanied with lethargy and seizures, are consistent with acceleration to deceleration forces of the head with traumatic stress on the neck. The skull fracture is consistent with impact to the head. Multiple rib fractures are typically caused by a squeezing mechanism of the chest. The healing oblique tibial fracture is most likely or secondary to a traumatic twisting mechanism, end quote. Dr. Daly further stated, quote, the combination of the above findings in a premobile infant in the absence of a plausible history of significant trauma to explain the injuries is indicative of abuse, head trauma, child physical abuse, and nutritional neglect. The history of a short fall onto the sink does not explain her extensive and severe head trauma or her multiple bilateral rib fractures, end quote. So she wasn't being fed, she was, oh my goodness. How could you do that to your own child, you guys? Okay, and this is what I was talking about on the previous video about the transcript. This is the transcript, okay? This is the part where, about the tablet. Okay, Jake told me he went home after being at the hospital. Jake's sister grabbed his iPad and opened the internet browser. Jake told me active browser page that opened was a search of how to feed a baby with broken ribs. Jake said Vanessa has access to the iPad and has the iCloud account of Vanessa, Jake, Haro. I'm not going to read the rest. Okay, a search of the iPad revealed the following Safari search timestamped on October 13, 2018 at 1:19 a.m. Quote, is it hard to feed an infant with fractured ribs? End quote. This was prior to the hospital visit. So they took the baby in the middle of the night, right? Let's see. She searched this right before they went to the hospital then, or sometime before that. Okay, so on November 7th of 2018, I spoke to Jake. Jake informed me that he did not use the iPad on 10/13 of 2018 at 1 a.m. Jake also informed me he does not take the iPad to work. I asked Jake if Vanessa caused the injuries to victim 1, and Jake stated, quote, "At this point, yes," end quote. On June 18th of 2019, so this is the next year, on June 18th of 2019, Jake voluntarily came in to speak to me. Jake said, quote, "If you ask me, do you see her doing this 8 months ago, I would have told you no way. If you ask me now, it had to have been her," end quote. Jake was referring to his wife, Vanessa. Jake and Vanessa willfully caused or permitted victim 1 to suffer unjustifiable physical pain. I request 273A PC charges be filed against Jake and Vanessa. Saying that his sister looked it up on the iPad, and Vanessa, obviously there were signs that she wasn't being fed, so Vanessa knows something, right? And this is what SF Investigate says. If the court had not allowed the system to be manipulated, as it is so often is, Jake Haro would have been incarcerated and unable to murder Emmanuel Haro if he is guilty as charged. Jake was arrested by the Hemet Police Department for felony child cruelty on October 12, 2018. The district attorney did not file formal charges until nearly 3 years later, on October 5th of 2021. During those proceedings, Jake Haro, through his attorney Vincent Hughes, was granted 16 continuances. 16. The case dragged on for 611 days, not including the 3 years it took just to file charges. And after all that, Jake received 1 day in county jail and 179 days of work release. We will be reviewing workers' compensation records to determine whether he even worked during that period. And remember, you guys, he broke probation for last year, 2024. He was found with a gun and ammunition. So he says right here, he was also placed on felony probation, which he violated by being found in possession of a firearm and ammunition. A convicted felon guilty of cruelty to a child caught with the firearm and ammunition while on probation, and the court ordered only $10,000 bail. Jake posted $1,000 and walked free. Since that arrest for violating probation, Jake Haro has been granted 5 more continuances, delaying accountability for more than 410 days and counting. Had those continuances not have been granted, he would have been in prison, not free, to allegedly murder Emmanuel. How is this guy able to get so many continuances? So it says right here, that is 21 continuances in total. This case began on October 12, 2018, and still has not been resolved. Nearly 7 years later. Is justice delayed, not justice denied? And what started all of this? Jake Haro tortured his daughter, beating her so severely that she now lives with permanent brain damage, functioning at only 3% capacity. A criminal protective order was issued on her behalf against her own father. Imagine being such a monster that one of your children needs a protective order to stay alive, and another, according to law enforcement, has been murdered at your hands. Now imagine the justice system granting that man 21 continuances, allowing his case to stall for nearly a decade. The docket reflects that the DA's office did not object to any of these continuances. The court granted a child abuser who left his child severely brain damaged 21 continuances and still hasn't served justice nearly 7 years later. The court now bears a share of Emmanuel's death, not because of what it did, but because of what it allowed. In its systematic failure to deliver punishment, it delivered Emmanuel Haro to his death at the hands of a man who never should have been free. Hashtag Emmanuel Haro. Banning Justice Center Department B 304, status is active. The people of the state of California, County of Riverside versus Jake Mitchell Haro, represented by Vincent Hughes. He was ordered $10,000 bail. The arrest date was June 27th of 2024. This is Banning Police Department. And yeah, he was given 5 more continuances. Like, somebody didn't do this right. He should have been in prison already because the judge said this is like a hammer over your head. Okay, so why was this guy given so many chances? This would have never happened. This whole thing would have never happened had he been actually held accountable. Okay? He should have been sent to prison. There shouldn't have been leniency. After reading this, I do think, in my honest opinion, I do think the judge was at fault here. I mean, as far as the district attorney goes, why did it take you 5 years to file this? Right? Everybody had a little bit of a part in this. You know, why wasn't there a CPS case? This is infuriating, you guys. So, who do you think is at fault here, guys? Because in my opinion, I think it was the judge. I mean, everybody had a little bit of a fault here, but I believe solely it was the judge, because he was supposed to go to prison for 6 years, and the judge gave him leniency, and basically just, he only spent 1 day in jail, guys. Think about that. And then he was let go. This is ridiculous. Violating your probation. Is he the parent of the child? Mr. Stoloa says yes. The court, is there any juvenile court family CPS? What is the status of that? I mean, typically we will permit contact pursuant to and only pursuant to a subsequent court order regarding visitation. Mr. Sarmiento says, Your Honor, I have no objection to checking the box reflecting the incorporation of any future family court order. The court, that's 14B. Mr. Sarmiento, that's fine, Your Honor. I believe I don't have all the details, but there is another family court order. The court, is there an order providing for custody already in existence? The court, Mr. Sarmiento says, based on my brief discussion with him, yes, he does have visitation at least once a month. The court, the problem is, I don't have a case number for that. Mr. Taloa, I don't have access to that either. The court, do you have any more court appearances coming up in that case? Jake says, I do not, Your Honor. The court, what are the provisions in that case? Jake says, Vanessa Avino is allowed 2 days of the month. I was allowed 1. I haven't seen my kids in almost 3 years. You guys, why were these two allowed to see the kids? You almost unalived your child. How was this allowed? I mean, if CPS was not involved, why wasn't CPS involved then? Right? It's not that hard to check, right? They both don't have access to that. Okay, so would it be hard to get access to it? I mean, I don't understand. I don't get it, you guys. Okay, this is the next transcript. It says, the court, because we don't have those details, it would normally be in the form. I'm amending the language to say it's a no contact order, except you may have peaceful contact as an exception to the no contact order, only for court ordered visitation, as stated in the family, juvenile, or probate court order issued before or after the date order is signed. Is that agreeable to both sides? Mr. Sarmiento, I would agree to that. Mr. Taloa, yes, Your Honor. And I think Mr. Sarmiento is the lawyer that was representing Jake in place of Vincent Hughes. If you don't know who Vincent Hughes is, Vincent Hughes was the lawyer that represented Jake in the 2018 case. Okay, and then Mr. Taloa was the district attorney at the time. Okay, they both agreed to it. Mr. Sarmiento says, I would agree with that. Mr. Taloa says, yes, Your Honor. The court says, okay, that will be the order. Mr. Sarmiento says, thank you, Your Honor. The court, if you go outside the scope of your court-permitted visitation, you're violating this order. And you know what that means? 6 years. So don't. I think that covers everything. Okay, and then this is what SF Investigate says. During the sentencing of Jake Haro for the 2018 beating that left his daughter brain damaged and permanently disabled, the judge issued a protective order prohibiting Jake from contacting her in any way. However, the judge then asked whether this aligned with any existing CPS or family court orders. When asked if he had any visitation rights with the daughter he had nearly beaten to death, Jake stated that Vanessa had 2 days of visitation per month. He had 1 day per month, presumably allowed by CPS. Jake also stated during the 2023 hearing that he had not seen his kids, plural, in 3 years. The judge ultimately issued the protective order but clarified that, quote, peaceful visitation would still be permitted if it was consistent with any existing court order. What's even more infuriating, guys, is that the fact that she has a protective order in her name and these two were still allowed to see her once or twice a month. I mean, not only did the justice system fail her, everybody failed her and baby Emmanuel. What does peaceful contact even mean? I mean, this child is defenseless. She can't even speak up for herself. She can't move. So what does that even mean? And I do apologize if I kept repeating myself in this video. I am just so dumbfounded as to why they were able to slip through the cracks, right? And I'm talking about Jake and Vanessa here. Why were they able to get away with almost unaliving your child, right? If they were talking about CPS in the court case in 2018, right? So if you don't know if there's a case, well, they said that there is, but they can't access it, right? If CPS wasn't visiting Jake or Vanessa, why weren't they being visited by CPS? They should be checked on to see if there are kids being harmed by them, knowing what they have done to baby Promise. The evidence presented to the judge, you guys, that made my stomach turn. I couldn't even read it. The first time I read it, I felt sick to my stomach and I felt disgusted. Okay, like, it's disgusting how they treated baby Promise. There is never ever an excuse as to why you're beating a defenseless child, right? There's never an excuse as to why people abuse children, ever, especially defenseless children that, you know, they can't talk, They can't even express themselves, right? If they're hungry, they can't tell you they're hungry, right? All they could do is cry. And a child that relies on you, I feel like there is never, ever, ever an excuse as to why that child is getting beaten. Ever. And it's disgusting. These people that are doing this things to children, it's disgusting. And I feel like the district attorney and the whole Riverside County district are under a lot of scrutiny right now. I think they feel under pressure because of what happened in the 2018 case. And I'm hoping they do things correctly this time. And I do think they want to do things correctly this time because they are under the spotlight. Okay, after what happened, after everybody found out what happened in 2018, they are under the spotlight now. And I feel like they feel under pressure because of this. And District Attorney Hestron said that they don't want to do a plea deal. They're not interested in a plea deal. And I hope they don't get a plea deal. To be honest with you guys, I don't want them to get a plea deal. I want this to go to court as much as everyone that wants justice for Emmanuel wants this to go to court, because all the evidence is going to come out. And I hope they rot in prison, because there's nothing in the world a baby could do that would justify you ending their life. Ever. And I can't say that enough, because baby Emmanuel was defenseless. He was voiceless. He couldn't even talk yet, you guys. He couldn't even talk yet. And like all the injuries I read on Baby Promise tells you enough of what Jake is capable of. Everything listed on this, the injuries that was listed, Jake was capable of doing that to his child, his children. He was capable of doing that stuff. So that tells you a lot, right? So I feel like the district attorney, all of them, the sheriff, county sheriff, I feel like they're under a lot of pressure to get this right. So I'm hoping they do the right thing, and I'm hoping they don't let him slip through the cracks this time, because he needs to be held accountable, especially for Promise too. Baby Promise, or any other child he's hurt that we don't even know of, because I'm sure they weren't. He has what, 5 children? 5 children, right, on his side. And I feel like, yeah, who knows who else he did this to, right? So I hope they're held accountable for what they did. And I say that he gave Promise a death sentence because Promise doesn't get to do the things a normal child gets to do. Okay? She is bedridden. She only uses 3% of her brain, right? So she doesn't get to do normal things that children get to do. She doesn't get to play. She can't even feed herself. She's never going to be able to have kids of her own. I don't think she's ever going to be able to get married and find true love, right? That's something that Jake did to her, okay? She wouldn't even be alive right now, you guys, if she wasn't taken to the hospital. That's how serious this is. Like, he caused this to happen to her. And it's so sad, and it's so disheartening that he was capable of doing this to his own children, right? And you gotta applaud Vanessa's cousin, because to take in, and you know, she is family to them. Her and her brother are family to them, but still, to be able to take care of that of this child and her brother after going through all that, to be able to take care of them as well as your own children. She is a blessing, you guys. She is a blessing in disguise. I mean, this woman took on a responsibility and is taking care of Promise and her brother and loving on her that she never got from her own parents. And we thank her for that. You know, she's a wonderful, her and her husband and her family, they're wonderful people for doing this for them. Unfortunately, baby Emmanuel didn't have that chance, right? He didn't have a chance to live the way he should have. And it's sad. He's never gonna have his own children someday. He didn't even get to go to school. So it breaks my heart to say that, but that's the truth. Okay, so I just want to say that. How was this guy able to have more children after knowing what he did to baby Promise? How? He had 2 more children after he did what he did to baby Promise. And you know, there is a rumor that baby Emmanuel doesn't have a birth certificate, and I keep trying to say Vanessa. Rebecca gave birth at home, and this is an under the radar kind of birth. And I kind of gotta wonder if this is true. Would CPS have taken the kids from them, right? We don't know. Okay, we don't know if this is true, but people are saying that baby Emmanuel doesn't have birth certificate, right? So, I mean, yeah, would CPS even had CPS known that Jake had more children, would they have been taken away from him because of his case, right? He was convicted of, unfortunately, only willful child cruelty, which caused him to only serve 1 day in jail. And you kind of got to wonder about the 2-year-old, right? Was something, because from the interview that I've seen, she seemed, I mean, which I don't know, just from looking from the outside, right? She seemed normal, okay? So, like, what is this? Like, is he picking children he's doing this to, or what? Like, or did she go through something too? It doesn't make sense, you guys. And Emmanuel was Rebecca's first son. She has all daughters except for Emmanuel, right? She's not innocent. She's not. If she knew what happened in that house, she's not innocent. Alright guys, so if you found this video interesting, share it, like it, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Okay, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching. As always guys, the link for the petition will be in the description down below. Thank you.